Hey, and welcome to the Explainer. So if you've ever tried to learn German, you have definitely run into the dreaded German cases. They can feel, well, impossible. But what if I told you it's not about memorizing a bunch of charts? It's really just about giving each noun a job title. Stick with me for a few minutes, and we are going to completely demystify this.
All right, let's start with something we all know, English. Take a look at this. The dog bites the man. It is super clear who's doing the biting and who's getting bitten, right? It's all about the word order. Dog comes first, so the dog is doing the action. You flip it around, and suddenly you have a completely different and much more interesting news headline.
And that brings us to the big question. In English, word order is king. It tells us everything. But German has a secret weapon. It has another, more flexible way to show who's doing what to whom, in a sense. And that is exactly what cases are all about.
So here is the single most important idea for today. Let's just forget the word grammar for a minute. Instead, let's think about jobs. In a German sentence, every noun gets a specific role, a job title that tells you exactly what its function is. And that's all German cases, or Fälle, really are. It's a system for signaling a noun's job. But here is the critical part. You're not usually changing the noun itself. Nope. You're just changing that little word that comes right before it, like the word for the. Now, technically, there are 4 cases in German, but we can basically master the whole system just by focusing on 3 main jobs. That's it. All you have to ask is this noun the doer of the action? Is it the thing directly receiving the action? Or is it kind of indirectly involved? Let's start with the first and easiest job.
First up, we've got the nominative case. This is the easy one. It's the one you probably already know and use without even realizing it. I like to call it the default setting. It's the subject, the star of the show.
So, the nominative's job is super simple. It just points out who or what is actually performing the verb. It's the doer. So if you ask yourself who or what is doing the thing, the answer to that question is always going to be in the nominative case. And take a look at the articles for the nominative. They should look really familiar, right? They're die, das. These are the first words you learn for the. They are the defaults. This is home base for every noun. So in a simple sentence like, der Ball ist rot, the thought process is super easy. What is red? The ball. The ball is the subject, the star of this sentence. And since Ball is a masculine noun, we just use its default article, der. See? Simple enough.
Okay, you ready to level up? Let's add our second job title, the accusative. The accusative case is for the noun that directly receives the action from the verb. It's the person or thing that's being, well, acted upon. All right, so here we are adding the accusative row to our chart. Now, before you start trying to memorize this whole thing, I want you to look really, really closely. The most important thing here isn't what changes, it's what doesn't change. Look at the feminine, the neuter, the plural. They are exactly the same as they were in the nominative. And this right here is the biggest, most important shortcut for German cases. So let this really sink in. In the accusative case, only the masculine article changes. That's it. Der becomes den. Everything else stays the same. 3 out of the 4 genders get a free pass. This makes things so much simpler.
Let's see this in action. Ich habe den Ball. I have the ball. Okay, I is the doer. That's our nominative subject. But why is it den Ball and not der Ball? Let's just walk through the logic step by step. First, you ask the key question. I have what? The answer, the ball, is receiving the action of having. That's the accusative's job. Okay, next step. Check the noun's gender. Ball is masculine, der Ball. And finally, you apply our one and only rule for the accusative. Masculine changes from der to den. It's a perfect, logical flow every time. All right, let's bring in our third and final job title for today, the dative case. Now, this is the one that can feel a little tricky, so we're going to use a really simple trick. We're going to anchor it to one core idea. The dative often shows up after specific trigger words.
And here it is, our completed table. Now, I know what you're thinking. That dative row looks busy. There are a lot of changes there. But please, don't try to just memorize it right now. We're going to use that powerful shortcut I mentioned, those trigger words. And here is your first and probably most useful trigger word, the word mit, which means with. Mit is what's called a dative preposition. This means that any noun that comes after the word mit automatically has to be in the dative case. No questions asked, no exceptions. It is a fixed, unbreakable rule.
So, if we look at a sentence like this, Ich spiele mit dem Ball, I am playing with the ball. The big question is, how do we know for sure that it has to be dem?
Well, the process here is actually even easier because the trigger word does all the hard work for you. Step 1, you just scan the sentence and you spot the trigger, mit. Instantly, a little alarm goes off in your head. Dative case required. That's the rule. Then all you do is check the gender. Ball is masculine, and you just find the right article on your mental chart. Masculine dative is dem. See, the trigger is the key. Okay, awesome. Let's do a super quick recap and put this all together with a little practice. We've learned 3 jobs for our nouns. The doer, which is the nominative, the direct receiver of the action, the accusative, and the one that often follows a trigger word like mit, which is the dative. Now, this slide points out one of the most common mistakes that German learners make. Because Dane and Dame sound kind of similar, it is so tempting to just throw the accusative den in there. But that trigger word, mit, it's like a trump card. It overrules everything else, and it forces the dative case. It has to be mit dem Ball. Okay, your turn. Time for a quick challenge. Wir sprechen mit blank Lehrer. That means we are speaking with the teacher. I'll even give you a hint. The word for teacher, Lehrer, is a masculine noun. So what article goes in that blank? Think about the trigger. Did you get it? The answer is dem. Why? Because as soon as you see that trigger word mit, you know it has to be dative. And the masculine dative article is dem. So it's mit dem Lehrer. See? It's not magic, it's just a logical puzzle. So there you have it. German cases are not just some random, confusing rules to memorize. They are a logical system for assigning jobs to words in a sentence. By thinking in terms of jobs and triggers, you've basically just cracked the code. The fear of cases is often the biggest wall for people learning German, and you just climbed right over it. So the real question is, now that this puzzle is solved, what are you going to build with the pieces? Thanks for watching The Explainer.